Let's take a look at an example that gets two numbers and adds them together and returns the result to the user. So to File, New Project, and Windows Form Application, top one. I'll call this example. Actually, I'll do more than one operation, so I'll just call it Math Operations. Because then we can talk about some of the results you get. Okay, I'll click OK. And expand that. Now we need to get two numbers from the user. So to begin with, I need a couple labels, a couple text boxes to request input. So double click the labels, double click some text boxes. Okay, that's our second one. This is our first one. Okay, and I want the font on that to be, there's font. I want it to be 20 so I can see it a little bit better. And I'll change all these to 20 while I'm at it. You can change these individually, or I've shown this in a different example, you can change them all at once to the same amount. There we go. Okay. Now this one, I want to change its text to read num1, or number 1. So label 1 there. Let's say this is number 1. And let me move this so it's lined up a little bit better. There we go. And I'll change that to say number 2. Move this so it's lined up with everything. Okay. Now when I click a button, I want them to sum them, find a difference, product, and quotient, and all that. So, so I need a button. There we go. And I need 8 labels, I guess. So double click it 8 times. How many times is that? 7, 8. There you go. Now I'm gonna click up here with my left mouse button, hold down with the left mouse button, and drag and draw a rectangle. So it selects all those. And I want the size in all those. This is where you can select all of them and then change them to all one font. There you go. And I'll change them all to 20. Okay, well, I'm start moving these. There we go. There we go. Okay. Move this. I need a button here in the middle. And then my label. It doesn't matter which I put it was where in this, in case you're wondering. And then right beside it. There we go. Okay. So for label, this third label here, I want that to say the add. So I come down to the text and have that say add. Or actually say sum. And this will be the difference. This one will be the product. So we're going to add the numbers, we'll subtract the numbers, we'll multiply the numbers. And then this will be the quotient. We'll divide them. Okay, well this one's a little bit too close. So let me I'd say I tried to do the rectangle and I grabbed this one by mistake. So let me come over here and start dragging. Now if you have those all selected, then when you move them, it'll move them all at the same time. Okay, well, this button, I want it to say something. I want to say compute, maybe. Also, the size of it's kind of small. and reference all the rest of it. So let me change the font of it. I'll change that to 20. Resize the button. There we go. Now let me change this. And I'll change the title of the form. So I'll go change the text property of it. This will be math operations. Okay. Now I'm going to be getting numbers from these boxes. The user's going to input these numbers into these boxes. So I need to name them. So this one here, if I scroll clear to the top of my properties, I see the name, and I want to call this TB underscore num1. This one I'll call TB underscore num2. Now I'm going to put my result in these boxes right here. So I'm going to call this LB underscore sum. LB for label, sum for the what's stored in it. And then this name I'll call LB underscore difference. This one I'll call LB underscore product. And this one will be called LB underscore quotient. Let's run this now and just see what it looks like. So if I run it, pops up with the box, and well, it looks pretty good, except for this says label 6, label 7, and label 8, and label 10. Different ways you can do that. One of the things you can do is make these invisible to begin with. And I'm going to show that because I want to introduce the visible property. The other thing you could do is you could set the text property to blanks, to nothing. Nothing's there. So you can get rid of the text. Okay, visible. Visible was right here, and it's currently set to true. So if I just double click that, it changes it to false. Come here, double click the visible, changes it to false. And same with all 4 of these. Now I could select all 4 with my rectangular select. For example, if I come over here and drag and draw a rectangle, it selects all 4, then I could set the visible all at once. But that's okay. Now, if I run this, notice how they're now invisible, because we said visible is false. When I click the compute button, I want to make these visibles true. Okay, so now we're ready to put our code in here. I can double click the button, and that'll take us to the click, or I can come over here to the lightning bolt and choose click here and double click in this blank. Doesn't matter how you do it. Now I'm going to declare some variables in here. int num1, num2, my sum, and my difference, my product, and my quotient. Now int refers to an integer. Integer means no decimals, which might be an issue. We'll talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to say I need to bring in what they put in the text box, my first text box. So I'll say num1 is equal to tb underscore num1 dot text. Now there's going to be a problem with what I'm typing in here, and I'm going to talk about it. And you see it's got a little red squiggly under here. And the reason why is you can't mix and match different data types. We declared num1 as an integer, but this text property is coming in as a string. So we're trying to set a string over, or set an integer equal to a string. And it tells you cannot implicitly convert type string to integer. So it can't convert it for you. So you have to figure out how to convert it yourself. Well, if I come and put my cursor before the TB, and I type int dot, and I can never remember which one it is. It's either parse or try parse. I'm going to choose parse because I think that's what it is. Do a beginning parentheses. Now it'll pop up, and it'll kind of give you a hint on how to use it. But there's also 1 of 4. So if I do this down arrow, it'll show you all the different ways you can try to do it. We want the first one here, but I'll just come over here at the end and put a closing parentheses. Now what that's going to do is tb num1.text. That'll retrieve the value that the user puts into the text box. Then int parse will parse it to an integer. It'll convert it to an integer. And then it'll assign it to the variable called num1. Okay. We want to do the same thing for num2. So I do int parse tb underscore num2. And I can do a down arrow to choose that. And dot text. And once you get to the property, you can do a tab to do the finish. Code completion. Okay, so now we got num1 and num2. So sum is going to equal to num1 plus num2. Difference is going to equal to num1 minus num2. The product is going to equal to num1 times num2. And the quotient is going to equal to num1 divided by num2. So I declared those variables, and each one of these I calculated it. So when this program runs, it'll come into this code here anytime I click the button. These are called what's called local variables. You can only access them from within this bit of code right here, from within this button one click. If I tried to access them up here, I wouldn't be able to access them. But anyway, I declared sum, difference, and so forth. After I get those values, it does the calculation. So it'll perform what's on the right side of the equals. So it'll add the numbers together, and then it'll assign it to sum. This is not like algebra. This is not saying sum is equal to this. What it does, that's an assignment operator. That says first add these two together and then put the result into the variable called sum. Brain cell of the computer program, if you think of it that way. This one says subtract them and then put the result in the difference, and so forth. Well, I need to then write out the results to the screen. So I'll say lb underscore sum dot text is equal to, I'm referring to the text, that's what's going to go into blank. And I'll say sum dot toString. Now sum is an integer. And when you do a toString, it'll convert it to a string data type. And that's what text is looking for. So you have to do that conversion you see there. Okay. Well, if I come over here and I do lb underscore difference dot text, I'll say that's equal to sum difference dot toString. And if I say lb underscore product dot text equals product dot toString. And then if I say lb underscore quotient dot text, that's going to equal to quotient dot toString. And for now, don't worry too much about what does that beginning parentheses mean? What does that closing parentheses mean? We're going to, when we talk more about rounding, we'll talk about what exactly is that referring to. Okay, now if I run this, come up here, click start, or I could do an F5. We're going to see it's not going to work. And let's see why. Do 5, I put 3 in here, click compute, doesn't do anything. So you think your code's wrong. Well, you have to remember, what did I do with these initial labels to begin with? I made them invisible, didn't I? I said visible is equal to false. So within my code, I need to make them so they can see them. So I'm going to say lb underscore sum dot visible equals, I think it's uppercase T, lowercase. Okay, I'm lying. lb underscore difference dot visible is equal to true. lb underscore product dot visible is equal to true. And lb underscore quotient dot visible is equal to true. Okay, now if I run this, pops up with this. If I put 4 here, 2 here, and click compute, it sums them. 4 plus 2 is 6. It subtracts them. 4 minus 2 is 2. Product. 4 times 2 is 8. And then divides them. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now on the other hand, imagine I put a 7 here. And then click my compute button. 9, 5, 14. That's all it'd be expected. But 7 divided by 2, it says is 3. It's doing integer division because that's the data types we said that it was equal to. So data types will help determine do you have decimals or not. But that's our math operations example.